I made out with a guy that helped coach Keller's baseball team. Sounds terrible, but you need an ego boost from time to time. Like, you need that person that just makes you feel like
when you're feeling really bad.
He at one point had said, like, why don't we get married in May? And I said, it's baseball season and my son plays baseball. And I was like, we're too busy. And
it's baseball season.
He wanted a wedding. I think I was
Pacing
just
the floor.
in shock. And it was the middle of the night. And here's the wild part about being a divorced mom. You have a kid in the other room.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Got Her Back podcast. I'm so excited today. I'm here with Katie, one of my faves, and I've been begging her to share a little bit about her story because I find it inspiring, I find it motivating, and today it's just me. So this is like the first for it to just be me. So it's just me and you, like, girl chatting. And so now I'm like really excited about this because I have kind of got the information through people and through TikTok, but not like, well, I have had conversations
firsthand
with you. New Year's Eve.
Yes.
We had fun on New Year's Eve.
True.
So I did get a bunch of it on New Year's Eve, but I haven't got to sit down with Katie like one-on-one and like, but I knew it would be a really good story. And I think a lot of women have found themselves in this predicament, but didn't have the balls to like do what you did. So I think that that's the cool part of the story.
I think so many times I'm like, when you get divorced, and by the way, I've only been divorced once.
You're not an expert.
I've been engaged a handful of times, though. I'm really good at that. I think you see people, I'm a hairstylist, and so I think in the industry that I'm in, I encounter a lot of people just in general, and I see women who have gone through a divorce, and they remarry, and then maybe they remarry again, and you just think like, I love these people, and I'm like, what are you doing that like you're making these decisions? And like, I would never. That's like your biggest mistake in life, is to say, I would never.
Don't say it.
Now, like when I tell my story to people, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been engaged multiple times, and I was married, and I was almost married again.
Yeah.
A week away from my wedding.
So let's like talk about that. First of all, I know Katie. Katie was married to my uncle.
Shout out.
Shout out, Rusty. We love you. Katie was married to Rusty. And so I've known Katie for a really long time. And I've known you since you were young. And you were young, like getting married and building your business. And we were basically having our boys at the same time. So Keller and Kaysen are the same age.
Yep.
So we have lots of parallels. We're both in the beauty industry. And I think it's interesting that you brought up the beauty industry and how we are kind of like, I feel like if you want to do self-healing and growing and things like that, like be in the beauty industry, because you hear so much that I like check myself a lot too, like through the process.
For sure.
Because I see myself through different women's like stories and thoughts.
I've always said, being in a salon setting, I do encounter the majority of women, and for me, I have a clientele that's a little bit older, and to me, they are almost like, well, I always tell everybody, they're like family to me. Every client, they're like, she's like family to me.
Same.
And it's true. I mean, a lot of them have spent holidays with me, but I lost my mom, and through that, a lot of my clients, I feel like, have kind of filled in that role for me. And so the benefit to having clients that are older than you is that they've also lived a little bit of life.
They have the wisdom.
So they share, and sometimes we have to learn the hard way, but then they offer, I feel like what my clients have offered me is hope to be able to move forward, and that there is a better life ahead of you. So when I feel super discouraged or, maybe even alone, they offer
Yeah.
something to look forward to.
And don't you feel like they bring you, like you have the perfect person that day that you needed?
Always.
That needed to give you that little bit of wisdom or whatever. You're like, okay, thank you, Lord. Like that was like perfect timing, you know, with the older clients, especially, you know, and then I feel like I am that to my younger clients, which is even weirder. So, and then my favorite thing to ask people, the older clients, is like, I'll always ask them, how long have you been married? And when they tell me, I'm like, what's the secret? And some of them say really funny things like, make sure he works out of town or you know, something like that. Yeah. But most of them are just saying like there are going to be hard situations and the best thing is just communication. Like everybody says the same thing.
Communication is a big one.
Yeah. And it is a big one.
Yeah.
And so Katie was married. How long were y'all married?
I like block it out. I always honestly, I can't even remember how long I've been divorced, which is so bizarre to me.
It seems like a different life, right?
It's when it happens, you like count it down by months and then all of a sudden it becomes a blur. And we talk about this often, Boston Boy and I, that we both kind of lost track because after a while it's just in the past. I think we were married. My son is 14. He just turned 14. So our boys are the same age. And I think he was 10 when we got divorced. Anyways, we were together like 12 years, I think is what it was. 12 or 13. I don't know. I can't remember. It was long.
Katie went through like a glow up transformation.
I did.
So you had like a whole whirlwind. I think.
I feel like
my
life sometimes I'm like, oh, it seems not like my life sometimes. I married my first husband, her uncle, and I was 24. And I was I think I was an attractive girl.
Of course.
And we had our son very quickly and I struggled with weight. Most people, if anyone knows me, they know that. Off and on, it was up and down. And towards the end of our marriage was not great. And I think most people that really knew us deep down knew that was a struggle. Yeah. But also, I feel like in some ways we hid it. I mean, to a stranger, they probably wouldn't have known. I mean, I think most people kind of think that that's true, but probably really more people know. Anyways, I think with that, there was, I don't want to speak poorly. There was infidelity or just not a lot of trust. And with that, I struggled with depression. And
it takes a toll on your confidence.
My confidence. And I think weight gain came in. There was a point where he was super active and working out all the time. And I kind of just despised him for that. So
I did the same thing.
I was like, let me just eat instead.
I'm rebelling.
I mean, he would go to the gym and I would just be like, I hate you. And he was working out. I remember one year we went to the beach. We went to Alabama and he was working out like 3 times a day. And I was like, am I allowed to curse on here?
Yes, of course.
I fucking hate you. And I was like, you're eating meat and vegetables only. And
what are you doing?
I was married at my lowest low. Yeah. And he was probably.
Was he trying to offer you any type of like encouragement or like come with me or let me help you or guidance or like
never
anything like that to like kind of get you out of that?
Never. And in some ways, I always kind of thought, he never puts me down about my weight or my looks. And he didn't. He never, ever talked poorly or spoke poorly to me about that. But he also never really encouraged it. And then hindsight, I have friends of mine, a coworker who was with me through it all. And she was like, you would be trying so hard. And he would roll in with like cupcakes from your favorite bakery, and there was one in Oklahoma City. He would bring them home, and like I don't fault him for that, but he definitely did not help me. And I hate saying this, but I'm like, I feel like in some ways he liked when I was depressed like that, because I feel like he knew that my confidence was low, and he was okay with it because he knew I wasn't going to leave. And we'll never know. Icky, because you don't want to think someone's that calculated, but I just think that happens a lot.
I think it does happen a lot, and people don't
see
it in the moment.
there's like fine line, right? Because then I know women that are married to men who make comments about their weight all the time. And I'm like, ew, how awful. And I remember joking and being like, I wish someone would be like, do you think you really need that Snickers? Like,
but how pissed would you be? I would be so upset.
Yeah, no.
Like,
no.
yeah, John would go like forever, you know, hours and hours and hours and hours. And I would be super resentful too. I would be like, you know, must be nice to be able to, you know, but we work in the service industry. So I feel like we're wiped at the end of the day, mentally, physically, and I don't have that at the end of the day.
I feel like too, Rusty traveled all the time when we were married. And so I was by myself. I didn't have family. And although I worked for myself, for whatever reason, we didn't really need my money financially at the time. I felt obligated to say yes to my clients. I hated saying no. And so I just felt like I couldn't work that into my schedule. And you're right. Like at the end of the day, all you do want to do is like go get your kids and go home, or you're going to some sporting event.
I did the same thing. I picked up like 30 pounds and was just kind of like looking in the mirror, like what happened? But it's just, you're working, you're tired, you're stressing, your cortisol levels are high, you don't feel like going to the gym, you don't eat all day long, so you just eat the worst thing afterwards, and like as much as you can because you're dying. There's just so many things in the beauty industry that we do, pound iced coffee all day, and
I remember thinking when I first started doing hair, because I was like, how are these women who work behind the chair ever big? And I'm like, because they eat Jimmy John's every day, because that's what gets delivered and can be there quickly.
And it's so true.
So, yeah.
It's the whole thing. It's so funny. And like when I went through my divorce, it just started falling off of me, which was really funny. And my doctor was like, well, your cortisol levels are so much better. And like, because mine were always like way crazy. And I was holding on to all of my weight.
I wish that was what I felt like happened with me, but I think mine was stress.
Yeah.
And I said, this is the only time in my whole life that I've ever been stressed enough to not eat, and I would get sick. And I was like, why did I have to have half of my stomach cut out to get skinny? Like maybe I should have gotten divorced a long time ago, so I could have lost the weight and still been still had my stomach. So
whatever works. You look incredible though.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So that's the backstory.
I think now living where I'm at, like just being happy, there are still people that have things done as far as weight loss goes. And not that being happy has everything to do with it, but I just think overall I just feel like it radiates more than it ever did before. I think I'm a whole different person than I was when I was married. I was like a shell of a person.
How many times do people walk up to you and like, wow, you are just glowing?
All the time now.
I started getting it, Meg started getting it, you get it. It's just like because you have that weight off your shoulders.
Yeah. Depression is, and not to say that everyone that's in that is depressed, but it's stressful, you know?
It's lonely.
It's very lonely.
And I just remember my mind all day was consumed with like, I want out of this, but what would I do? But I have a kid, but you know, and you're just, and it would just spiral like that all day long.
I get it. When we were first married, I don't know that I felt that way as much, as I just felt like what I was feeling was probably normal, and it was the ups and downs of having a new kid and being alone. And then as time went on, there would be different things. You just realize you let little pieces of yourself go throughout time, and it's to avoid fighting, or you just think, well, if I don't nag about this, or if I don't complain or tell somebody what I want, then like they don't have a reason to be upset with you. And so you just lose a little bit. And it's really easy to see how women just start to exist.
And like sometimes the fight isn't worth it, and you don't have the fight in you that day. So you just, let it go. And then you're like, well, that's gone. That part of me is gone. Like, I don't have that energy in me right now.
I sometimes feel bad because I used to tell Rusty, like he often would say, like, I think we should just get divorced. And backstory for him is that his parents were each married several times. So commitment for him, I feel like, was different for me. My parents were married till my mom passed. And not that makes it right. It's just
two different perspectives.
And so forever I hung on to, I wanted my son to grow up in a home with both parents. And I just feel like I used to say to him, you have a choice every day to be happy or to not. like, that's on you. Like, we're married. You're committed. It's not about you anymore. And I feel bad sometimes that I used to say that to him because he clearly wasn't happy, and neither was I. I mean, I think we had a lot of really happy moments. I'm grateful for a lot of things from my marriage, and I feel like Keller has a lot of great memories that came with that. But it can be so much better.
So how long were you single before you met Aaron, and how was that journey?
I sometimes kind of forget. Almost 2 years.
Because you did like quite a bit of just like having fun, like, you know, being with yourself and girls, you know. I thought that was really cool that you took that time, but you did like power date.
I had a friend that was out of town. And I think like anybody post-divorce, well, maybe not anybody, but a lot of women post-divorce, you kind of latch on to maybe that first person that makes you feel good.
Because you've been in a marriage so long.
And you know that like it's probably, like, of course everybody's like, it's never going to work. You're just, you know, jumping from one. And they're probably right. But I am super thankful for the time that I had after, just because he didn't live in town. I didn't have to give my time from Keller to anybody else. I could get out of town occasionally. Like we would go hiking, and I mean, he just was a different component that I had not had, and kind of brought me back to life and made me feel like I was normal. All the things that I questioned about myself, I feel like he gave me confidence, and he was super attentive. He was a car door opener and bag carrier, and just
a gentleman.
Yes to anything that I wanted to do, and just fun. We laughed all the time. Eventually that came to an end, and then I really didn't date. Actually, there's like a really terrible story, and I don't know if you ever heard it, and I don't even mind sharing it because it's kind of funny. I won't get into the details, but
we love details.
My client Mackenzie, who also became a client of yours, she's been my baby client forever. She's a grown-up now and has a baby of her own.
She's all married.
She got married, and she had this beautiful wedding.
It was.
And I was kind of on the cusp of like ending the situationship I was in, and I drank a lot.
At her wedding?
Oh my gosh. It was terrible. It was embarrassing. It was like one of those moments, but I always say it was like my coming out party for my divorce. This was a whole year later though. She got married in February, and we separated in January the year before. So I was like, I kind of just went wild, and it was a terrible night for me, to be honest. I mean, it was fine. It was actually so fun, but I ended up like putting myself in timeout and was like, you know what, guys, I'm going to bed.
I'm putting myself in my own timeout.
I feel like no guys are going to watch this, and if my kid watches it, I don't think he ever will, but I made out with a guy that helped coach Keller's baseball team. And I don't remember it at all. Anyways, the nicest guy. He teaches in Wichita Falls. And
you don't remember it, darn.
I mean, I vaguely do, but the best part is my friend Melinda was there, and she was like, I couldn't find you. And so I called an Uber, and this guy, who is so sweet, his mom's really good friends with the bride's mom. And so I've known him in a roundabout way, plus through baseball, through my son's baseball team. And he was like, you can't get in an Uber by yourself. He was like, you have to, that's not safe. So he rode with me in the Uber back to the hotel that everybody was staying at. I think I passed out in the car. I woke up.
I wonder if you were snoring.
God only knows. There's a little strip mall in front of the hotel that everybody was at, and there was a bar in there. I vaguely remember going in there. I had no shoes on. I went, my friends let me go in this bar with no shoes. I was like, that is so gross as a like 36-year-old woman. Anyways, I was down at one end of the bar with him, and then my friend was on the opposite end, and there was this really cute guy. We call him Coach because that's what Keller, he didn't know. He'd be like, who is that? And I referred to him as Coach forever. And he's from Houston. He was much younger than me and played baseball with the groom. Anyways, they basically said like, hey, you can't you can't be with that guy. You're way too pretty for him. And then like pulled me down with them. Well, that's where my friend Melinda had ridden with this guy and him back to the venue. And she was like, couldn't find you. And when the pictures came out from the wedding, from where they were doing the sparklers, I was literally standing right next to her, but she left me. And that's how I ended up there. Anyways, I made out with him or something like that. And then I put myself in timeout and was like, oh my God. But
it's like when you wake up and you're like, see flashes and you're like,
He was so hot. It doesn't even matter, but anyways, that was my aha moment of like, you need to like move on and transition into something else. And so from there, I was kind of single really from February until Aaron and I started dating we went on our first date in September or August. And it was like mid-August.
Y'all were set up right through friends.
So we had actually kind of been talking off and on for like a year, not like talking, but just casually. We knew each other. His mom was a client of mine, like 17 years ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she tried to set us up when I first moved back to Wichita Falls, and he lived in Lubbock at the time. And I was like, no. He just wasn't my type, and he didn't live there. And I just wasn't interested. And I don't know, I just wasn't interested in him. And then, we have these mutual friends who forever were like, you should go out with him. And I was like, no. And we went out as mutual friends, as a group. And actually he asked me, and my friends were like, this is when I was a situationship person. And they were like, you're not married, you don't have a ring, like you should go out with him. So I agreed to go. And then I felt really guilty that night. And I texted him and I was like, hey, look. Like, I just can't. It would hurt my feelings if he went out with someone else. Like, I just can't go out with you. He said, okay, I totally understand. And I really took him off all of my social media. I wasn't talking to him, like, at all.
Who, Aaron? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you felt bad.
So this was like a year, like almost a whole year before we ended up dating. And when I went to that wedding and kind of everything went through, I was like, I added him back on Snap.
Like, you're like... Ugh. Where's my safe option at?
And he was like my hype boy. He would tell me every day. I mean, he was always there because he wanted to be that guy. And if I was bored or lonely, and then I got on like the
We need
apps.
a term for that. Like, God. Who is that? Because I feel like people have that.
You
like,
do.
You have that, like, the fallback.
And you need to, like, sounds terrible, but you need an ego boost from time to time. Like, you need that person that just makes you feel like...
When you're feeling really bad, you're like, I need someone to tell me I'm pretty.
And just to be
it's
like...
a thing.
And, like, when you're a single mom, your friends are always like, call me, we can go get a drink. 9 times out of 10 when I say like, hey, you want to go grab a drink, they're like, I'm busy, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm with the kids, like, and super sweet. Nobody means they're all
it's true busy. People ask me and I'm like, I'm so sorry, like I have to take Maddox to cheer and I have to do this, and you really do.
You get lonely. So it's like, that's the person that even if he wasn't going to show up, like I could text him and he would just entertain me throughout the evening. But like okay, so we got to get to this. So fast forward.
Let's do it.
We talk every day, basically from February through the summer. We end up at a couple of different events. Oh, even in the fall. Okay, back up. Prior to that, we all went out as a group over the break because my friend's husband plays baseball, so he's home for the off season. We all went out as a group, and there was this guy that I kind of knew at a bar, and his wife had passed away, and we had mutual friends, and he was like kind of staring me down. He had like reached out to me at different points before, and so I wasn't feeling that vibe, and I used to cut his daughter's hair, and I didn't want it, so I kind of latched on to Aaron a little bit, and I definitely sent him mixed signals because I was probably touching his legs, like trying to get the other guy to be like, oh, she's taken.
Yeah.
So we all go back to our friend's house afterwards, and when I got ready to leave, I was like, okay, I'm going home, and he walked me out, and he tried to kiss me, and I was like, clearly we are not just friends, like. And it was also my fault because I sent the mixed signals. But I just wasn't interested like that. And so we kind of went on.
You had many red flags. Well, your women's intuition, like.
Yeah, I knew. And so.
You think deep down you knew?
Yeah.
It wasn't your like.
Yeah, I mean, this is the full story. So we get to the fall, I take my son on a trip to San Diego. We have the best trip. Now, we have this friend that plays baseball. So Keller and I went to watch him play. And then Aaron was also good friends with him. And so when I was going, he was like, oh, I wish I was going with you. And I was like, I told you could come, like, but it's a mom-son trip. Like, you got to get your own hotel room, but you can come to the game. Like, we're fine if you want to come hang with us and go to the game. No. But when I came back from that trip, I was talking to Risa. I will never forget. I was talking in the morning on the way to work. We talk every day. And I said, you know, maybe if I'm not dating anybody by December, I'll go out with Aaron. And she was like, kind of laughed, and we went on it. And I'm like, hindsight, that sounds so awful. But I was just
but
like,
that's what women do.
Well, and my friends were pushing it, right? They're like, he's the nice guy. He adores you. So
he's
I
the
go to
safe option.
Go to work. My
Not
mutual
really.
friend, co-worker is there, and I'm talking about this story, and she goes, you just need to let him go. Like, he loves you and adores you. Like, his whole family knows he loves you. Like, we had all been at this game. The team he played for played the Rangers, so we were all there, went to dinner. I met I already knew his mom, but I met like his brother, sister-in-law, dad, and she was like, they know he loves you. Like, he adores you, Katie. And I was like, maybe you're being shallow. Like, maybe it's me. Like, maybe I'm picking these wrong men. We had a guy that I referred to as red flag. You asked if I had dated. I didn't really serial date. Like, I kind of went, I actually ever went on dates with 3 other guys.
Yeah.
And one of them didn't really count as a date, but he was from our hometown. And he's a guy you would never take home, never introduce to people. Like, I love his family, love his mom, but he has 3 baby mamas.
Walking red flag.
Oh, he's so hot, but he's just
Of course.
walking red flag. And like, monogamy is not in his vocabulary. Like, he's not that guy. And so that guy had been pursuing me off and on. I've been telling him no. And this is all kind of like coming to a head about the same time I go out with Aaron. And basically I sent Aaron a message that day at work and said, like, hey, you want to go to dinner on Friday? And he was, yeah.
Of course.
There. And so we did. I
got this, girl. I got you.
We had a great time, but it just wasn't really there even then.
No sparks, fireworks,
no.
butterflies.
No, and he was late, which wasn't, that's unfair because there were like fires everywhere that day.
Yeah.
But he was late coming and he's super anxious. And I knew that going into it. I don't think I guess there was another time we met and had a drink. This was something else too.
Yeah.
Just as friends, I said, hey, if you can be here in an hour, and he like drove to town. This was like in between somewhere in that year, in the summer maybe. And I was planning a trip to Atlanta to go watch a Braves game. And he used to travel for work all the time. And he's like, well, I don't like that you're going to Atlanta. I'm like, bro, we're not even dating. I didn't ask you. Like what? It kind of weirded me out. So there were just little things. But I told my friends that day, I was like, when we sat there, he couldn't even make eye contact with me. And I was like, he's super nervous.
Yeah.
Like, nervous energy. Like, I don't know if it's just me. And that his friends were all like, oh, I don't really like see that as that. Turns out that was like a huge thing for him. Anyways, we go on this date. It's great. I mean, as far as like getting along, it's easy. But I had told him he could stay at my house. There were all these fires and he was going to get a hotel. And I said, it's fine. You're going to church in the morning. Like, you're getting up early. It's late. Like, you just can't try to sleep with me. That's what I said. You're like, it's not happening.
Don't get that in your head.
And he was a perfect gentleman about it. Like, he was fine. But he absolutely originally said, like, no, I'm not going to come. And I'll just get a hotel. And I was like, really? It's fine. Like, we have enough connections. I'm not nervous about it. But I feel kind of mean saying all of these things because it's kind of intimate. But he got back to my house first of all, and I was like, did you smoke on the way here? And he was like, yes. And I was like, no. Like, I'm not a smoker of any sort. And I don't know. It just, that was an ick for me.
It was a turn off.
And it's for everybody to each their own. Like, that just for me was and I wouldn't have like sealed the deal, but it was on the list. And so the next morning, I remember telling Rachel, like, I cannot get him out of here quick enough. And he was fine. It was the worst sleep of my life. He busted out, I shit you not, a Metamucil bottle that night when we got in from the bar. He was like a diehard Metamucil guy.
What?
Every freaking night.
Wait, Katie.
I swear. That should have been red flag number one.
Why? Yeah. What is that about?
Well,
never mind.
Yeah.
But
he
on the
first date.
You couldn't have like hid that, bro, in your bag and like.
No, it was just like. Anyways, the next morning he was like, "This was one of the best days of my life." This is one of the best days of my life, and I was like, okay.
You're thinking, really?
And I just wasn't feeling it. And so I went to dinner with the mutual friends. I have 2 girlfriends whose husbands are both friends with him. And they were like, well, maybe if you just like talk to him. And I was like, and there just wasn't the chemistry there. Like kissing, it just wasn't there. And so.
How did you get past this?
Well, it's kind of a crazy story. So then we end up my friends kind of convinced me, like, maybe you should go. Your cousin, my nephew Hagen, coaches in a little town that Aaron is from, and they were playing in our area. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go to the game if you want to meet me. Like, because he kept saying, when are you going to let me take you out again?
Yes.
And so we met there.
Let me guess. Yes.
Another thing that kind of happened that was like, it's not that big of a deal, but like my parents were both in education. And so to drink on like a school premise is super like no for me. I'm kind of
a rule follower.
I am. And he had like a drink in the parking lot. I'm like, no big deal, but it just was meh.
Did you say anything to him?
I'm sure I did at the time, but
like
it was
jokingly?
like we just met, so it's like I knew it had happened. I think he maybe asked me if I wanted one, and I was like, ew, no. So we go to the game, and then we end up going to dinner. And when we go to leave dinner, we just went to like Buffalo Wild Wings. He tried to kiss me again, and it just wasn't there. So my mutual friend is like, I think you just need to like let him know, because red flags sneaking in. And he's like, hey, let me cook you dinner. Hey, let me do this. And he's like really cute. And so they're just like that bad boy. It's like, yeah, let's give him a shot. And so he's pursued me long enough. I finally go over to his place. I let him cook me dinner. He is so fun, so charming. He's like the guy you could like, he's just comfortable, and he's easy, and he's country, and he's like all of these just comfortable things.
Southern.
And then you drink a bottle of wine, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh, that was a terrible decision. And here's the thing, y'all. If you have to drink a bottle of wine to convince yourself that you are comfortable with someone, you know what I mean? You're not, and don't. And immediately then I was like, this is really personal. And I'm like, I have got to go to the doctor and get checked. And that was a big aha moment for me of like, the bad guy's not the guy you want. You got to quit being shallow. Tuck your tail.
Oh, you ran to the safe option.
I went to the safe guy.
Yeah.
And
this happens a lot, Katie.
It really was.
It's pretty common.
I joked because red flag came back in the picture at one point when I started my TikTok and was like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And he was like typical F boy. Ugh. He came back, and I actually made a video about him one day, and he got so mad. A lot of people, I'd never said his name. I described him as like smart and charming and handsome, and like he is.
You're like, why are you upset about that?
He got so mad and like sent me a text and was like, don't ever talk about me on there again. And I'm like, what part gave it away for you? Like, just smart, charming, handsome. Like, I didn't even say that you have 3 DUIs and you have like a felon. Like, what? I didn't even tell your bad things. Like, I only said the good
kept
ones.
it PG,
but now,
buddy.
Here it is, guys. So go find that video. Anyways.
We'll link the TikTok.
But that's how I ended up messaging Aaron back and being like, hey, you know what? And from there, really, I think I just convinced myself that chemistry was not that important.
Big of a thing.
And, you know, it was like, okay, well, when you're in a committed relationship, chemistry may not always be there. And sexual, like, chemistry, you know, maybe
it might go through phases, but...
I know. And I will tell you, on the flip side of it, now being past that, it's like, it's huge. I had gone from being in a marriage where it was very not a part of it to being in my fun situationship where it was really, really like exciting. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I am in my feminine. Like I was
you felt it again.
My prime. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfect. Like, not perfect,
your
but,
insecurities start going away
and
because
then you go back to like Aaron and I, and that was just not it. And I was questioning, like, maybe I'm just not good at this. Like, maybe there is something wrong with me. And this kind of blows my mind now because the guy that I'm dating, I think I referred to him earlier as Boston Boy. Is a very affectionate person. And when Aaron and I dated, like, if I were to be in bed and, like, put my hand on him or on my stomach, like, he would push it away from me. It was so weird. And I remember him saying to me one time, like, I just don't like to be touched. And I was
what
like,
the hell?
what?
Yeah, no.
It was super empty. And we actually had a couple of different moments then when I was like, maybe we shouldn't be getting, like, or what is it? Am I doing something? Like, what's wrong with me? Like,
how soon did he propose to you when you went back and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this? Like, when did it felt like it was pretty fast.
So we started dating, like, we went in August, and then in September is when we, like, started talking again. There was like a 3-week hiatus basically where I told him I wasn't interested, there wasn't chemistry, and then I came back and was like, look, I think I was just scared. Like,
was it you who really had the agenda for marriage, or
think
was
it was
him?
both of us. He had been married previously,
and you just like to be married
while, and I always wanted more kids. And Rusty and I he didn't really want more, and we didn't really like each other.
Rusty was much older than you.
Yeah, so it just never really worked out. He didn't really want more, and we didn't get along. And I think I was always like, why would I want to have another kid with someone that doesn't want one? But with Aaron, he didn't have any children. And so I just turned 39.
Check the box.
He was 43 at the time. And it was kind of like, if we're going to do this and we're really going to try to have a kid, like, you've got to, get after it. And so I think if we wouldn't have been trying to have kids, we probably wouldn't have
pushed the marriage,
pushed that so quickly.
Makes sense, though.
For sure. And the more time that went on, when people say, like, someone can only keep up an act forever, and I'm not bashing him and saying he was a horrible person. He was super spoiled. He was very connected to his family.
Is he an only child?
His brother's like 10 years older than him.
So almost.
And his family, like, he works with them. Essentially, they like farm and ranch.
They're all intertwined,
so
like
it's
really close.
So his income is connected to that, and they have a lot of say in like everything. And so my life, when you say like, what would life be like? It would look so different because we were talking, like I said this the other day, I go, oh my gosh, if we would have gotten married, we were supposed to get married in November, I could potentially be pregnant.
Yeah.
When my son was going to graduate, we were planning on moving. I sold my business thinking that like this was the time because having another kid and getting ready to move.
Do you regret
and, like,
selling your business?
Or
do you think that was just like the best decision?
I try to think of it as like, you can't be like, God had all these provisions for my life and then question the little things. It was time.
Yeah.
I was tired and I wasn't putting into it like I was when I first started. And so I think financially, when you're not putting into your business the way that you should, it reflects. And so I feel like financially it was probably a relief. And then also just the time and the energy. So I try not to think about it too much. It's a little bittersweet. Would I have sold it? I don't know.
How did he propose, and what was your immediate thought?
Well, I kind of I didn't know. I think
You felt it.
I mean, I was putting a lot of pressure. Like it was a constant topic. And I basically told him, if you don't propose to me...
Ultimatum.
No, I just said, it was an ultimatum. But I just said, if you don't propose to me by... I think I said May. Yeah. He at one point had said, like, why don't we get married in May? And I said, it's a baseball season. And my son plays baseball. And I was like, we're too busy. And
it's baseball season.
He wanted a wedding. Like, I really didn't want a wedding. And so he was like, really.
So what was the ultimatum?
I just said, if you don't propose to me by then we're not getting married in the fall. And we were planning on the reason we planned our wedding in the fall.
And you're a planner, correct?
I am very much a planner. My friend's husband plays baseball, who is one of the mutuals who set us up. And I think it's funny to say that when we went on this trip to San Diego, her husband, I was down, they were doing BP, and Keller and I were down talking to him, and I said, oh, did you find me a husband yet? Because, like, teasing about all the baseball players, and he was like, yeah, his name is Aaron, and he's from, and I was like, never going to happen. That's what I said to him. And we just all laughed about it because I think, they probably knew deep down that
everybody probably knew.
Well, and really hindsight, like, I didn't know.
Was Risa the only one saying it out loud?
I think she's the only one that really said it, yeah. And I think hindsight, now this mutual friend did say to his wife, who's my friend, he said, I hope he, like, treats her right and that this works out because he was a playboy and he knew it.
Did you know that?
Kind of. But then I was like, I mean, you're 43. Like, how much of a playboy can you be, right? Like, he's not that cute. He's just not. And I'm not trying to be mean, but he's not. And it's like, you're 43 and you've kind of lived that. Like, you're saying you want to be married. Hindsight, I didn't know that he had this thing for, like, younger girls. So we're already engaged, by the way. And we went out to spring training, and one of his nephew's friends was there at the hotel. We were all, like, swimming, and Keller was out there. And the friend, his name's Drew, was, like, starts talking about Aaron's exes. And they were, like, 15, 20 years younger than him. And I was like, holy shit. Like, and I can't say a lot, right? Because the situationship that I had was much younger.
I had no idea.
And my ex-husband was older, but it's like, he was super secretive about anybody he dated. Like, the wife he was married to, even when I asked his sister-in-law when we called off the wedding, I was like, what happened? She was like, honestly, I really don't know. It was like all of a sudden one day they were getting divorced. And then she tells me about this other girl.
Oh, he was married.
Briefly,
and not long.
Yeah, his whole thing was supposedly she cheated on him with a coworker and then had a baby. And, like, I kind of fact-checked from what I could, and the times for her kids worked out for that, but, like, nobody knew. None of their friends really knew what had happened. And it's just like, I feel like if I put him on the Are We Dating the Same Guy page, like, there'd be like,
let's do it. I'll do it anonymous, of course.
But it's like, you have to do it small town edition, because
is there a small town edition?
They have to be Lubbock or Wichita Falls. I don't think it would be the Metroplex because that's too far for him. But like, nobody really knew what happened, and so I don't know. It was just a weird situation. But basically, then, he proposed to me in February, and we started dating in the fall. So it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then basically that was that. I just said, if you don't, for the wedding, we wanted to get married in the fall while the friend was home from the off season for baseball. And that would have been after World Series.
So that's like a super, like, not that long to plan your wedding.
And that's why I was like, well, I just said, like, do you know how long it takes to do these things? And, like, we're busy. And
But you did it. You planned a whole wedding. You planned the whole wedding. You found the venue. How many guests were there going to be?
Like a 200-ish.
200?
It was a lot. I wanted 50.
You picked out your dress. So you wanted 50. He wanted a bigger wedding?
He couldn't say no. And as a matter of fact, that was a big struggle. Like, that was a big fight because he didn't want anything to do with, like, planning the wedding. Mm-hmm. But he wanted everybody there. And I was like, he wanted you to do hard to say no. Like, just pick your favorite people and be like, that's it. Like, and I said, you're a grown-up. It's your second wedding. Like, people understand it's expensive. Some people just want an intimate ceremony.
I'm assuming that your dad wasn't paying for the wedding.
My dad was going to pay for the catering. Okay. And so basically, I ended up getting stuck with all of it.
So you paid for you had to pay for the venue, I
didn't actually, because the people that owned it
were so nice.
And they were so nice to me. So for the venue and the food, they didn't charge me.
So you worked, you planned your wedding, and you're like, do you feel like you just like took off with the wedding planning and like?
I just had to. I think at first
were you really excited? Did you convince yourself to be excited? We can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think
distract ourselves enough.
I think I was so happy and caught up in the idea of like having this family, and his parents were active in their church.
Y'all were looking for a new home.
My mom's gone, and everything, like the dynamics of my family had changed. I was like, this guy is a man's man. He's going to be a godly,
a great
example for my son. His whole family just had kind of, they had embraced us, and they farmed and branched, and I loved like the quiet country. And so although I wasn't necessarily excited to move to the town where they were at, like I love a simple life too. And so I think everything and he was friends with my friends. It just worked in a lot of ways. And so for the wedding planning, I think I was excited, and I just used to tell myself all the time, like, how often are we going to ever have all of our friends in the same place to celebrate together? Like, that's such a fun thing. And like, the older you get, the less events you have to go to. Like, it's going to be such a good time.
Yeah.
So even though it wasn't really what I envisioned in my mind, I had made myself very excited. Like, I loved my dress.
Do you still?
I have it. If anybody wants it.
Let's fast forward to the week of your wedding.
So we are down to the wire.
Were you working still? And
I was still working.
Trying to cram in all your clients?
All of it. I mean.
Did y'all plan a honeymoon?
Yeah, we had a honeymoon.
Where were you
that's
going?
Another story.
Okay.
Because his mom picked where we were.
Oh, okay. That's fun.
Yeah. So we were the week of the wedding. We were down to the wire. Had started taking some things to the venue because the people there, they didn't have an event, and they were kind enough to let us start bringing things in and
make it easier.
Yeah, we were down to the wire. He actually had gone to pick up the liquor for the wedding, and the Friday before our wedding, he had a friend that was killed in a car accident that morning. It was raining really, really hard, and he was on his way to work really early.
The week of your wedding?
Mm-hmm. And he was one of his really, really good friends. He and his wife were going to be guests at the
sad.
wedding. And so it was a terrible morning for him. And I will say he's a very emotional person. So, I mean, as anyone would be in that situation, but like it really did hit him hard. So I don't want to take away from that. But he was so upset all day. He had actually come to town to pick up the liquor. It's like, things still had to go on, and we were kind of trying to figure things out. And I initially thought about driving. He lived an hour away from where I was, and I had seen him already that day, and then I was planning on going the next morning, and we just had so many things. I was like, I didn't, but he hung out with some friends. He had been drinking. He was upset. I mean, just cried all day. And in the middle of the night, I get a phone call from him, and he is just crying hysterically. And he was like, I'm just taking this so hard. Like, I don't like it. You just really got to get your life in order, and it puts things in perspective. Like, you have to love your people and let them know that you love them. Just
like he's having aha moments.
This whole like epiphany of like life is short, and he's just boo-hooing. He's like, I'm so sorry. I don't know why this is hitting me. And I'm like, I'm half asleep, trying to be like,
trying to be compassionate,
like, like it's, and just listening, right? And all of a sudden, I hear my phone go, zzz, 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 and it's like over.
While
and
you're
over.
on the phone with him?
While I'm on the phone with him, and I like glanced.
What time was this? I wonder.
It was like 2 a.m.
On a weekend, Friday
night, and I look at it, and it's Facebook Messenger, and it's like somebody I don't know, and I'm like, who's so-and-so? And he's like, why the fuck is she messaging you? And I was like, I don't know. Like, who is she? And so, of course, then I start going, because there's like,
then you wake up real fast, Katie.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So then I'm reading through, and I'm like, what the actual fuck? And I just.
Is he like interjecting or like wanting to know, like panicking?
Panic mode.
Distracting you.
I was like, why don't you tell me? And so I start, and I'm like, and he goes, oh, that was just, and he has nothing to say. And basically the message from her said like, hey, I know you don't know me, but Aaron and I have known each other forever. I responded tonight to what I thought was like a harmless, friendly message, and this is what it turned into. And I'm sorry. I know you guys are about to get married. I just feel like you should know. And basically, he messaged her and like said, "How was your day?" or something. I don't even remember without reading it.
He just messaged her out of the blue,
and she kind of unloaded on him. It was late. She had a friend's mom who was in the hospital having open heart surgery. They had been up in town. Like, she basically just kind of like spilled her day of what she had done and said something about having like a couple glasses of wine. And then he took that as his opportunity to be like, oh, I wish I was having a glass of wine with you. And then it started into like something about her cuddling and being in bed with him. And she was like, basically at that point, she's like, hey, aren't you getting married in like a week or two? And he was like, oh yeah, my bad. Like, sorry, it's just been a rough day. Like, my friend died today. And she was like, and she was like, I'm sorry. She was like, you knew better. Like, she had actually already vented to him in the first part of that message about she and the guy that she had been dating had just broke up like the week prior.
Yeah, do not do this to a girl that has just happened to.
And so a lot of people from that town know her and were like, she's kind of a homewrecker. And I was like, look, I don't give a shit what she is. She just did me the biggest favor of my life. And
I'm so grateful that she messaged you. And this is my big question. Did he call you trying to distract you? Because
100%.
Did she tell him that she was going to? Oh, so she told him like, hey, I'm going to message her. So he called you and was like crying and like making this about something else. I'm not saying that was bad or not bad, terrible that happened to him. I do think that, but how wild that he used that. How infuriating I would be to be like, how dare you try to me to be compassionate to you right now when you're trying to cover something up.
She actually said to him, hop on damage control.
Hot, like,
I think I was just in shock, and it was the middle of the night. And here's the wild part about being a divorced mom. You have a kid in the other room.
Yeah.
And so all the things you want to do and you want to react, you're just like dying inside. And I laid there and cried all night.
I hate that.
And I actually reached out to his sister-in-law because and my one mutual friend, but I like didn't.
How close were you to the wedding?
We were a week out.
Yeah, one.
Yeah.